And thank you for those words of confidence. I want to thank the Chairman Skeel, board members, and Acting Governor Marrero for the warm welcome to Puerto Rico and the opportunity to update you on the Oversight Board's recent efforts. This is my first month on the job, actually day 20, as the Oversight Board's Executive Director, and it's my first Oversight Board public meeting. But Puerto Rico has always been a home to me. Like so many Puerto Ricans born in New York City, the island has always been a part of my life. I vividly remember spending my childhood with my grandparents in their home in Arecibo, where also my parents were born. And it was those memories that triggered this unique opportunity to contribute to Puerto Rico's future that swayed me to leave my role as Budget Director of New York State and join the Oversight Board. When I was contacted by the chairman and the other board members, as the chairman mentioned, over the summer. The Oversight Board and the government have already accomplished a significant amount. Puerto Rico's economy, which suffered greatly from both natural disasters and a long economic recession, is starting to stabilize. Tough decisions and compromises have been made on both sides. The debts of the central government, HTA, COFINA, and others have been successfully reduced to sustainable levels, and efforts are on the way to do the same with the PREPA debt. When I sat down with board members for a long discussion about the Oversight Board's mission and vision moving forward, the goal was clear. Focus on Puerto Rico's long-term economic growth. Strengthening Puerto Rico's education system is foundational to prosperity, as is growing jobs and making it easier to do business on the island. Completing Puerto Rico's energy transformation is essential because we cannot create sustainable economic growth without reliable electricity on the island. And together we must continue our work to achieve long-term fiscal responsibility, because fiscal responsibility will ensure that Puerto Rico does not revert back to the days of crisis. That is the purpose that will inform my priorities over the Oversight Board's work. Over the coming weeks and months, I will listen to and meet with as many stakeholders as I can to learn the challenges and opportunities to invest in the path forward. It is my firm goal to gain the trust of everyone with an interest in Puerto Rico's future. I will work with Governor Pierluisi's administration and the legislative leadership to ensure our shared priorities, which are fiscal responsibility as well as economic growth and prosperity for Puerto Rico, remain aligned. I will reach out to opposition parties to hear all voices that care about Puerto Rico's well-being. And with the bankruptcy hopefully behind us by later this year, we all want fiscal governance returned to the elected government. I commit to taking the steps necessary to accomplish all of the financial objectives laid out in the Promesa legislation so that we can work toward meeting the requirements for the Oversight Board's termination. As everyone will learn, I am a very results-oriented person. Execution is what matters, not plans. What drives me to accomplish what we set out, what drives me is to accomplish what we set out to do, especially the priorities important to our partners in government, and most importantly, the people they represent. I keep politics out of it. The people of this island have endured the aftermath of poor financial management and governance in the past. This is an uncomfortable reality. I commit myself to partnering with the governor, the legislature, and all the stakeholders with one focus: working together to achieve sustainable long-term economic growth, to improve the everyday lives of the people on the island. My experiences serving multiple administrations in New York, working for both Republican and Democratic governors and legislatures, will inform my approach. In New York, I was known for my willingness to cross party lines. We broke decades of dysfunction and late budgets to deliver consecutive and balanced budgets. In the process, we successfully kept spending to below 2% every year for a decade. We lowered the debt, we cut taxes for every New Yorker, and the state embraced fiscal discipline as a core principle of financial planning and budget making when it had not been that case in the past. This discipline led New York State to achieve its highest credit rating since 1972. I know there are distinctions between Puerto Rico and between New York and Puerto Rico, including the political status, including the location, it make it very different. I am, however, confident if the Oversight Board and the government work together, Puerto Rico can continue to make progress over the long term. The Spanish philosopher Jorge Santayana quote is appropriate here: "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." That admonition cannot be more relevant than the mission here. We must start by embedding fiscal discipline in every decision that the government makes. This is a prerequisite to economic growth and improving the lives of the 3.2 million people that call Puerto Rico home. We must keep in mind one simple principle: $1 spent in one place is $1 not spent someplace else. And it was not long ago where Puerto Rico found itself with virtually $0 available. The government's tax resources are as precious as they are finite. This is true for New York, and this is true for Puerto Rico. My role in Puerto Rico might differ, but the principles of budgeting remain the same. Fiscal responsibility is within our control, and I intend to advise the Oversight Board members on ways the government can achieve sustainable outcomes. Steps like bringing the audited financial statements up to date, maximizing efficiencies, and how the budget is managed can be achieved without delay. Fiscal reforms such as wage increases that are tied to civil service reforms and fair, balanced tax reform can be structured to have clearly identified funding sources while still achieving the government's goals. I look forward to encouraging the legislature to accomplish its priorities within the parameters of PROMESA. Reliable assessments on the costs should be considered before legislation is enacted is a fundamental principle of governing. The Oversight Board will continue to support well-balanced legislative reforms that include clear funding sources and, again, are consistent with PROMESA. Collaborating on legislation before its passage will help avoid situations where the Oversight Board must act because a measure is inconsistent with the fiscal plan or impairs the objectives of PROMESA. Governance reforms must be made permanent for them to have meaningful long-term impacts. The road ahead may not be easy, and the Oversight Board and the government may not always agree. But if we collaborate and do our part, I am confident it will lead to better outcomes for the people that we all commit to serve. Let me now spend the remaining time updating you on key areas of focus since the last public board meeting in October. The Oversight Board recently filed a plan of adjustment for PREPA, proposing to cut the utilities debt in half. I would like to reiterate the chairman's message that the Oversight Board will work in good faith to build additional support for the plan and strike a fair balance between lenders and the residents of Puerto Rico. As part of that effort, the Oversight Board is trying its best to provide PREPA's most vulnerable customers with relief and protect them. Completing PREPA's restructuring is also a top priority because it serves as the first step toward providing the financial stability and economic growth necessary to invest in a modern infrastructure and provide resilient and reliable energy system for Puerto Rico. It is impossible to transform an energy infrastructure on the island with a bankrupt utility. Finalizing the 2023 fiscal plans is another near-term priority. Fiscal plans are not new to me. I have worked with fiscal plans my entire career. They are not just words on paper. They represent a viable roadmap to the future. We all agree Puerto Rico cannot grow long-term with one of the lowest labor participation rates in the world. Puerto Rico cannot grow if it does not prepare its children for the jobs of the future. Puerto Rico cannot grow if it cannot attract and keep businesses to create sufficient jobs. Puerto Rico's fiscal plans should be designed to meet those challenges. The 2023 Commonwealth Fiscal Plan certification process is well underway. The Oversight Board staff continues to review the proposed fiscal plan submitted by the governor earlier this week and will respond soon. The governor's submission is the product of intense collaboration between the government and the Oversight Board over many months. As proposed, The fiscal plan includes ambitious proposals to transform and improve Puerto Rico's delivery of government services, the business climate, the energy and education systems, and the island's infrastructure. Many of the initiatives in the fiscal plan are proceeding in earnest. Civil service reform, as an example, is a data-driven process that is successfully establishing competitive, fair salaries and a standardized merit-based recruiting process, and an evaluation system to support the development of skills and a path for career development, all to improve the way the government of the island performs for the people. Strengthening Puerto Rico's education system so high school graduation rates improve starts with education leadership, which you will hear about more today, and other measures, including improvements to the property tax collection system mandated in the CRIM fiscal plan, and a variety of initiatives and other fiscal plans are also on track. Yet significant work remains. The government has not fully implemented certain reforms, such as structural reforms that are critical to generating long-term growth and surplus. Puerto Rico's long-term viability requires us to act decisively today to make it easier to create and run a business on the island, to invest in the improvements in the island's roads and transit systems, and to stabilize and transform the energy system. Implementation rests with the government, but the Oversight Board is interested in collaborating on ways to promote the strongest and durable fiscal plans, including ways to improve the execution of the initiatives that are remaining. Puerto Rico's future depends on true reform that moves the island towards a foundation of lasting economic growth and prevents the government from falling back into the old habits of overpromising, overspending, and fiscal imbalance. Achieving these permanent and sustainable reforms will be one of my core focus areas as your executive director. I'd like to conclude by letting you know this is not just a professional challenge, but a deeply personal one for me. I am very proud to be of this island and humbled to have the opportunity to use all of my experience to work for this island to make a lasting impact in the future of our economy. Together, we will keep the finances stable and build a foundation for prosperity. Again, I look forward to partnering with the elected leaders to create the Puerto Rico that regains the confidence of investors so that the government never falls back to the instability and the crisis that necessitated the creation of Promesa. And more importantly, most importantly, regains the confidence of the people of Puerto Rico. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Robert.